Hello everyone, welcome to From the Star Wars Home Video Library. I'm your host Nathan P. Butler. This time we circle around to a UK release that shows us something a little bit different for something we've looked at in the past. In several episodes now, we've looked at the Clone Wars cartoon series, the one by Dave Filoni, not the one by Genndy Tartakovsky, and how it started out, of course, with that film released in 2008 that saw home video release in 2008, which was a big deal because it was the first Star Wars Blu-ray of any kind. Well, we saw a lot of different versions of that, retailer exclusives plus regular releases, one with the comic and all that kind of stuff. We saw a steelbook with one edition, but in the UK there was one version that the US did not get, and it's pretty neat because it comes from a format that the US never really saw Star Wars content in. We saw like parodies of Star Wars, like the Family Guy stuff perhaps, in that type of context, or in that type of format, but not the Star Wars films or TV series. So, to look at that, we need to set the stage here. This is the American release of the Clone Wars film on DVD as a one-disc edition. What's important for this is the fact that it's just the film, and it's on DVD, not Blu-ray. It is a single-disc release. If you look at the cover right there, it's got Obi-Wan and Anakin with Yoda and Ahsoka, and then you got the clones behind them, and you open it up, there is no insert or anything, and then you have the disc, which says Clone Wars, has the characters, the main characters now shifted over to the side, and the clones now taking up the bulk of the left side of the image there, all with a little circle there, a little hole that connects to the DVD player up above it, right? This was the standard wide release of the Clone Wars. There was a 2-disc edition, there was a Blu-ray version, there were other retailer incentives, or retailer exclusives, but this was just the regular version in the US, and the UK had one similar to that as well. But in the UK, you also had the ability to buy not just on Blu-ray or DVD, but on a format known as UMD, or Universal Media Disc. Kind of like Video Now, this was a proprietary format that would only play on one type of electronic device. What type of device was it? I think some of you out there have probably already figured out because you had some video games in this format. That's right. UMDs, or Universal Media Discs, were discs playable only on Sony's PlayStation Portable, or PSP, video game platform. The old PSP handheld, the precursor to the PlayStation Vita. Now, unfortunately for me, when it came to the PSP era of Sony handhelds, while I did have a PSP, the one I bought to play stuff like The Force Unleashed on PSP was the so-called PSP Go. A PSP Go was basically a digital-only platform, nice and compact that you could carry around, pop it up, play your game, close it back up, it continues playing. It's like a standby mode kind of thing. And you could buy digital content and watch digital video on here. But the regular PSPs, all the other 3 different previous versions, the 1000, 2000, and 3000 as they were called, those actually played UMD discs as their content. You could download digital stuff onto a memory card, that's fine, but most of the stuff you would play, whether it's video or games, would be on these little bitty discs called UMDs. That's what we want to take a look at. For Star Wars, in the US, again, there weren't any UMD releases other than video games. But if you went to the UK, you could actually watch the Clone Wars on UMD. This is Star Wars The Clone Wars, the film from 2008, a home video release from 2008, on UMD. So you see up there at the top, it says UMD, or Universal Media Disc Video. See the PSP logo there, because it is only going to play on a PlayStation Portable, and not a PSP Go. It's going to play on a PlayStation Portable that actually uses the UMD discs. We have a cover there, very similar to the standalone regular 1 DVD version of the film itself. We have the ratings down there at the bottom for the UK. And then we have feature film down at the bottom to note that this is just the movie, no bonus features. So very much like what we get here. I believe, though, that while this one does have the audio commentary, I don't believe that you have an audio commentary to go with the UMD version. Okay? Again, I haven't been able to play it because I've got a PSP Go, like an idiot. Right? So it says feature film, you look on the side, UMD video, Star Wars, The Clone Wars, etc., etc. Down here, Boulevard Entertainment is that logo there. and then the product number, followed by Warner Brothers home video logo there. And then on the back, your information about the film with the ratings and such. Probably noteworthy to note what it says it includes up here at the top and the specs down here at the bottom. So, the UMD up at the top says in bullet point that this includes the full-length movie in a widescreen presentation with DVD picture quality. Bear in mind, though, that while it is DVD picture quality in terms of the resolution on the disc, it does have to be scaled down to actually show on the PSP screen, so it's only going to have a good enough resolution to match the PSP screen. So DVD picture quality, sort of. Perhaps in name only is a way of putting that. Down at the bottom, it notes, this disc is playable on the PSP PlayStation Portable System. PlayStation is a registered trademark of blah, 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 blah. Audio, 2.0 Dolby Stereo English, 98 minutes approximately, subtitles none, and in color. What's interesting here, I find, is that it is an all-region release. Usually what you saw on UMD was that games weren't region-locked, but movies often were. But this movie was not region-locked, probably because we're already about 2 years past when even places like Walmart started limiting how much shelf space they would actually give to UMDs. The format was slowly dying from movies, that they're just kind of like, yeah, let's make it so we can sell to as many people as humanly possible because this format's going to die and we're going to lose a lot of money. But we got this. Didn't get the Star Wars films, but at least got the Clone Wars animated film. So no live-action films. And the disc is kind of interesting here. Again, no insert. This is the actual product. It clicked into the case, kind of like a DVD would. But again, this is a UMD. It is a small disc. It doesn't hold a lot. It holds about 1.8 gigs for single layer. Okay, double that for dual layer. And then you notice that the artwork is pretty much the artwork there off of the regular DVD, just with those UK type of ratings on there. But the discs themselves, you didn't have them separately or put them in separately. You put them in these little, kind of like caddies, similar to what we saw with CEDs and VHDs. They got into these little cases, and just like an old floppy disk, just had a little area that could be read out of that case. Because if you opened up a floppy disk, the actual data is on the little black ring, right? And there's all the plastic around it to keep it safe. Very similar here. So you would take this and stick it inside your PSP to be able to play a UMD, in this case of the Clone Wars film. It's little teeny tiny to be able to be played on the little teeny tiny PSP screen that you might be carrying around. Probably no surprise that this is a format that eventually faded away fairly quickly for movies before games. Because if you had a PSP, you were generally playing games on UMD. But even people who owned PSPs a lot of times didn't bother to pick up movies to watch on the PSP because you could watch them on DVD. Blu-ray was the new big thing. In fact, at the same time the UK was getting their one and only Star Wars UMD film release with the animated Clone Wars film, that was also when we got our first Blu-ray release with the animated Clone Wars film. This is a weird, short-lived format that just really, again, it's kind of like Video Now, but it was at least more successful than Video Now, but that's like being valedictorian of summer school. It was a way to see the Clone Wars. It wasn't a particularly good way to see the Clone Wars, and it was certainly not something that would last for Star Wars for very long. But if you are looking for something unusual for your Star Wars collection, or you own one of the older model non-digital PSPs and want to be able to watch the Clone Wars on it for some bizarre reason, then you can pick up the region-free The Clone Wars feature film UMD from the UK on places like eBay and such right now for pretty much a steal. Not a high price for these things, even though they are unique little collectibles these days. Thankfully, most people today don't think of these as collectibles. They think of them more as old pieces of crap sitting in my collection I'm never going to use anymore, so I'm going to sell it in bulk on eBay. You can find these for very decent prices if you want to add it to your Star Wars home video library. With that, we'll wrap up this episode. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with the home video viewers. Even, yes, on UMD.